If you look closely at these dovetail drawings from 1826, you might notice something. Well, actually the lack of something. And again, look at these drawings, this time from 1922. You might notice that there is nothing decorative about them. You see, back in the day, dovetails were practical and considered unsightly, but as time went on and the production of things became more mechanized,
every bigger, better, and faster tool has given new abilities to the man who uses it, advancing from simple hand tools to great electric-driven complex machines.
Due to this soulless mechanization, fine craftsmanship was valued more and more, and the dovetail joint became something to show off. It is this change that fostered the myriad of variations we now see in dovetails. In this video on my 30-day dovetail challenge, I'd like to show you 3 dovetails with one thing in common. They are all decorative in some way. The first joint is a bit simple, I have to admit, but I was still working on the 5 techniques I featured in the first video in this series.
Use a dovetail jig, marking knife for all your lines, tails first, cut a V-groove in the back of your tailboard, and undercut slightly.
You see, even the fact that I use contrasting wood colors to highlight and bring attention to the beauty of the joint is a departure from the old ways. I was definitely feeling better and better with the marking knife, but learned a way to refine the technique. Instead of marking the entire front of the pin or tailboard, I only cut the superficial fibers where I intended to remove material, and not having to sand out the lines saved a lot of time in the end. The second joint is the first inlaid joint I attempted. Inlays are the best way to highlight how the tails and pins come together in the end, but it adds a lot of complexity. Now you might ask, how do you make an inlaid dovetail like this, Cam? And the answer is in 3 stages. First you cut the tails and make the inverted tails to match, glue them together, and then remove the materials where the pins will be received. There is another important trick I learned after making the 24 cuts of this inlaid dovetail. You can use sawdust and a bit of glue to fill the gaps in a pinch. Just make sure you don't ever point them out. And here's another way that you can add interest to your dovetails, and that is to leave the pins, the tails, or the pins and tails proud. Proud dovetails add visual interest and allow the joint to be accentuated by shadow lines. You can see here that I rounded one edge of the tails for more visual interest. The typical way to mark out dovetails is to mark a line on the tailboard the width of the pinboard, and to mark a line on the pinboard the width of the tailboard. But do you remove the lines after you make them? Earlier we mentioned you can cater your marking lines to where you remove material to save planing or sanding, but not everyone agrees. Many argue that leaving the lines on further shows that the joints were handmade. I prefer to remove them, but masters of the craft like James Krenoff advocated leaving them on. Well, hopefully you picked up some tips here, how you can shorten your marking lines to avoid too much sanding or planing in the end, how to fill gaps with sawdust, how to hammer the like button, and how to plan out layout lines depending on if you want them showing in the end or not. Make sure you check out the first video in this series as well, and hopefully you find yourself feeling good about dovetails in no time. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I really appreciate the support. Please like the video if I earned it, as it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And please subscribe, as this will be the second in an ongoing series on dovetails. For example, in the next video I plan to show you my first attempt at half-blind dovetails and try a decorative dovetail inspired by the Japanese sunrise joint. See you on the next one.